girls. Welcome to a review of Wonder Woman. I've decided I'm just going to use my phone to film reviews. It's easier. Don't have to move my camera as much. Depends on how much I think I'm going to talk. If I want to make a long one, like when I eventually get around to reviewing Ace Attorney Apollo Justice, which I finished like a year ago, but I just haven't reviewed, I'll use the camera for that. But this is Wonder Woman, which, I mean, that came out like 2 years ago, but I just saw it at home on DVD. I don't remember how I watched it, but I thought it was good. I thought it was very good. Thought it was a whole lot better. The only other DCEU movie I've seen is Suicide Squad, and I for sure thought Wonder Woman was a lot better than Suicide Squad. So Wonder Woman stars Gal Gadot as Diana Prince, or that's just the fake name again. Diana, Wonder Woman, Princess of the Amazons, who goes with a World War II fighter pilot after he crashes on their Amazonian paradise island. And she goes with him, and then it's essentially a war movie, like a World War I infiltration war movie, and starring it's a war movie, and it's kind of a fish out of water story, because you have this girl who's been living on this island by herself, well, not by herself, but like with just her and her family, completely isolated from the modern world and modern way of doing things. This guy's the first man she's ever met or seen, and I mean, she knows what men are, but she knows what some of this, but like she had to ask him what his watch was and stuff. It's very much a fish out of water thing, and it also is kind of an interesting, I don't know if I'd say commentary, because it does the same thing a lot of war movies do, and it's not all that deep, but it does go into this sort of like, she comes in and she's got this sort of idealistic viewpoint. Her mission, to kill Ares, the god of war, which supposedly will stop all wars forever. And you know, that kind of contrast with Chris Pine's character, the fighter pilot who lands on the island and agrees to take her to Europe in exchange for, you know, letting him free, because the tribal leaders don't want to let him go. They want to remain isolated. And her idealistic sort of like, I just need to kill Ares and then everyone will be good viewpoint, contrast with Chris Pine's character's more realistic sort of like, war is war and there's not a lot we can do to change it, but if I can just complete this one mission, stop this. So basically the war mission is, there's this crazy evil scientist and she's got made this new kind of gas that gas masks are immune to. So, or not immune, gas masks don't work with, so like there's no way to protect yourself, and she has all her formulas written down in this book, and he steals the book, and so he's like, I gotta get this back to the British people. And then eventually that mission turns into, we gotta go stop this gas from getting shipped out because the British leaders aren't willing to help, because they're trying to sign the I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it does a nice job of taking a conflict that is an entire war and shrinking it down into one singular conflict that the characters have to face, and Wonder Woman has one mission, to find Ares, kill him, and stop war. And Chris Pine and his friends that he gathers have one mission, to get in there, stop the gas from being released. So then she kind of eventually becomes into his mission in ways, but then it takes some interesting turns that I thought were really cool, but they're kind of spoilery, so I'll go into them in a minute. But I really like Wonder Woman a lot. Like Gal Gadot, she's got a nice kind of accent, and all the Amazonians kind of have this sort of Greco-Roman accent going on. It's a nice sound, and she's, I mean, what am I trying to say? She's just very the whole fish out of water aspect of it is very endearing, and I never really felt like it was like painful or like hard to or cliched. I thought she reacted to. She had a very endearing way of being like, "What's this? What's this? Oh my gosh, baby! There's a baby!" And then Chris Pine's got to like, "Hey, come on, shh, settle down. It's okay." And they have a nice dynamic going, and there's plenty of scenes where she does something dumb and then he has to kind of help her, but there's just as many scenes where she does something badass and proves herself to the people who doubt her. Like there's a nice scene, there's a funny scene where Chris Pine has gathered his team of friends that he wants to help him, and they're like, "What? You have a girl? We're not gonna help a girl get to the front lines." And then some bad guy comes over with a gun or something, and she just like stands up, grabs the gun, and like pushes him aside, and then they're all like, "Oh, okay." But there's a really nice sort of like almost coming of age type thing where she eventually learns how our world is different from her sort of idealistic paradise island. And I think that part of the story is actually really, really strong and really works well. And I like how it's not so much a superhero movie as it is a war movie, just with this other character almost from another universe. I mean, even though she does live on Earth, she's still like otherworldly in that she's like this super powerful woman, super strong, bullet resistant armor, and then the whole fish out of water thing as well. Fish out of wonder. That was bad, I'm sorry. And that, I think that stuff works really well. I like superhero movies that are like, it's more of a this style movie, but with a superhero-y twist. Like Ant-Man was a heist movie in superhero form, or how Captain America the Winter Soldier, still one of my favorite Marvel movies, was kind of a spy thriller with a superhero edge. And this movie is very much a war movie that's also a superhero movie, which is kind of what the first Captain America was too, but honestly Wonder Woman is just way, way better and more memorable than the first Captain America movie. The first Captain America movie is a forgettable, average movie. Wonder Woman, I'd say, is actually quite a good superhero movie, and quite a good war movie. Now I'm gonna go into one of my big issue with the movie, which involves the ending. So that's spoilers. So if you don't want to know the story, I mean, this movie's been out for a while, so it's probably fine. I'm just gonna go ahead. Click off if you don't want to know what happens at the end. So basically, Wonder Woman manages to kill the man who is leading this sort of side group that is creating the gas. There's the scientist who's this evil lady who has this weird face prosthetic, which I thought was a dumb, unnecessary thing. I found her kind of an annoying character. And then her boss, who's also maybe her lover. It's kind of unclear. His name's Ludendorff, and Wonder Woman gets this idea in her head that, oh, he's Ares, so if I find him and kill him, I can stop the war. So she goes to him, and she kills him, and then the war doesn't stop. There's still soldiers moving out the gas to load onto these planes and fly out, and then Chris Pine shows up, and he's like, I don't remember what his name was. Sam? Steve? It was a pretty generic name. I just thought of him as Chris Pine. He's like, what's going on? And she's like, I killed him, and the war couldn't stop. And then she freaks out because, like, why didn't the war stop? And I think that it's a really powerful scene because he's like, maybe it's not the war god, maybe it's just them, maybe people are just like this. And she's like, no, people can't be like this. And I don't know, it's hard to really describe here, but it was an interesting scene that sort of opened up the idea of maybe it's not as simple as there just being an Ares that she has to kill. Like, I mean, the idea that we would all accept, but a really grounded idea, almost like a superhero learning that the world she's in is not a superhero world, if that makes any sense. and that's sort of like this reality crushes her that is kind of scary. That really kind of powerful. And like I was watching and I'm like, wow, this is actually, and that's great. The problem is immediately after that, Ares shows up, like the actual Ares, and kind of just ruins the whole like impact of that scene because. Like, basically, Chris Pine's like, we gotta stop the gas, and she's like, I can't, she's freaking out. So he leaves, and then Ares shows up, and another weird thing is they make Ares this British guy that was helping them earlier back in England. He's part of the British War Council, and he was like, no, I support your guys' mission, and he sort of under the radar supports them. But then he just shows up, and he's Ares, and I'm like, what? That's a lame. Why did you need to make that a twist? Nobody was expecting Ares to be some random person we met before. This isn't a cool or shocking reveal. It's just a twist reveal for the sake of having a twist reveal. There's no reason for Ares to be this random British dude. And then they have this conversation, and I think they were trying to keep up the motif of like. Humans cause the war, Ares just helps them because he mentioned like that he like organizes armistices, peace treaties to see how long humanity can go, and then they always break them or something. But it's kind of unclear because he just monologues for like 5 minutes and then she tries to kill him, and then they end up having a big flying around whacking things superhero battle, and it's like, well that takes away. What I was enjoying about this movie was that it was kind of a grounded war movie with this superhuman character coming in and kind of providing a gleam of hope and light in this really desolate war. There's a really cool scene earlier in the movie where they're in the trenches and she's like, we've got to help these people. And he's like, we can't help these people. Nobody can get across here. It's called no man's land. No man can get through, which is a bit on the nose. Like, as soon as he says that, you know, oh, but she's a woman. She can go through. So that line's a bit on the nose. But, like, the scene as a whole is really cool because, like, they're like, nobody can get through. We've been trying for 3 years to get through the trenches. You know, if you know World War I, French and Germans stuck in these trenches battling it out slowly and painfully for, like, years. And then Wonder Woman just climbs up a ladder and like charges in with her bulletproof armor out and clears the way for all these soldiers to rush the trenches and take over and save this village. And that's a really cool sequence. If the whole movie was like that, I would have liked it a lot better, but at the end they kind of go big bombastic superhero movie again. Also in the end, Chris Pine's character sacrifices himself to like blow up the bombs in the plane, but there's really no reason he has to do that. He could have easily just flown the plane over the ocean and like dropped the gas things into the ocean or something. It doesn't make it clear why he has to get on the plane and blow it up in the air and sacrifice himself. There's not really a reason for it other than that his heroic sacrifice is what motivates Wonder Woman to get the final blow on Ares. And by that point in the movie, I was just kind of like, this has taken a turn for the worst. Like, this movie was a lot more powerful when it wasn't showing off these big, crazy superhero battles, and it was just this grounded kind of war movie with a superhuman character providing brevity, light, hope, this sort of idealistic viewpoint. It was a lot more powerful. Wonder Woman could have said a lot more if it just... or if she just left to go stop the gas with Chris Pine after killing Ludendorff. If Ares didn't show up and she never battled Ares, the movie would be a lot more powerful, a lot more interesting. It could say a lot more, and that's really my big complaint with the movie. I really didn't like anything else before, really didn't dislike anything else before that point. I'll say the conflict in the beginning of the movie with Wonder Woman and her mom and aunt like disagreeing about whether or not she should be trained to fight, that was kind of dumb. It was just cliched, like I've seen it before. But like there was nothing really stood out to me as just being kind of, I wouldn't even say the Ares stuff was bad, it's just really disappointing. For after you know, a really like powerful scene in a very kind of, you know, different kind of superhero movie that's a little bit more, strangely enough, for considering that it stars a character who literally her goal is to like, she constantly says she was molded by clay by her mother and Zeus gave her life. Like, she's from a ridiculously fantastical setting, but like the movie itself actually feels rather grounded. And that until Ares shows up and I think kind of ruins the whole everything they were going for. But that's just me. I don't know. I still would recommend it. It's much more watchable than any of the other DCEU movies, I think. If you're going to watch one DCEU movie, make that one Der Woman. Arrivederci.